Hello, I'm Dr. Charlie Collins. Let's talk about research methods. Today, I'm going to talk about the process of qualitative data analysis. I will discuss data preparation, data analysis, and I will leave you with a couple of concepts to consider. First, let's talk about data preparation. Like quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis also needs to go through a process of preparation, which includes transforming the data into readable text, checking for and resolving errors, and managing the data, usually with some sort of data management tool. Transforming the data turns raw qualitative data, such as audio recorded interviews and field notes, into something more readable, usually a text document. Checking for errors includes identifying any translation, misspelling, or other errors in that text document, and managing the data is placing those text documents into a database to track, code, and analyze the data. Let's say, for example, that I've conducted a series of interviews with racial justice organizers about their activism work. I recorded each interview on an audio recorder, and now I need to transcribe those interviews to text. So I hire an army of students to help me out with this project. So what they do is they listen to each interview and transcribe each exact word into a text document. This is the data transformation process, taking the data from the audio tape into a text format. Because this process can be long and tedious, there are bound to be mistakes. In addition, some of these interviews occurred in places like loud coffee shops, so the first transcriber may not have been able to hear all of the words and get a complete sense of the discussion. So there are always mistakes on transcriptions like this. So what happens is another student comes in, reads the transcription while listening to the audio recorded interview, and checks for any errors on that transcription. If there are any issues, the two students can work together to verify and adjust any errors. This is the checking and resolving errors step in the data preparation phase. Finally, after we have our text data files, we need to do something with them to get them ready for analysis. So we store them using qualitative software such as something like NVivo or Atlas TI and conduct what's called attribute coding. Attribute coding codes each text file for certain tracking attributes such as interviewee ID, age, location, or other characteristics important about the file or the person that we want to know. This is the final step of the data preparation stage. After this step, we can move on to analysis. After we process our data, we can now begin the analysis process, which helps us identify concepts, patterns, and relationships among ideas. There are 3 steps to this process as well. The first process, coding, is the process of organizing the ideas within the data into categories, or what we also call themes. For the racial justice interviews, for example, I may read through several transcripts and ask questions such as, quote unquote, how is the interview understanding the situation, and what meaning are they making of this statement? What this does is it allows me to categorize various statements made by the interviewees into different groups with other similar ideas. Many qualitative researchers will go through this process until they reach what we call saturation, meaning the place where no new categories or themes are emerging from the data. After coding, we reach our second step, which is memo writing or creating a codebook. A codebook places all of our categorical themes into a quote-unquote book of our codes, or a codebook. Codebooks help us organize our themes, and they allow us to create operational definitions of a concept. For example, in the racial justice research, perhaps an interviewee states something like, quote, I've done my research on what is Marxism, what is communism, what is socialism, what is liberalism, what is anarchism, unquote. And this statement is coded with something like political identity formation. A codebook allows me to take a code like political identity formation and apply an operational definition to that idea. This is how I operationalize the constructs within my research. This then helps me identify other quotes that may also be related to this code and apply that identity formation code to that idea. Once we have all of our interviews coded and into a codebook, we can move on to our final step of the analysis process, which is creating data displays. This step is almost more like a quantitative step in the qualitative process. It allows us to identify things such as relationships between codes, counts of codes across the data, and flowcharts of the codes, for example. This provides us with a visual and conceptual presentation of the data in the form of things like data matrices, typology tables, and different forms of visualizations, for example. Now, once our data is processed and analyzed, we can finally write up our results and findings to present to the public. This is the final step in any research process. Well, that's all we have for this discussion on qualitative data analysis. By now, you should be familiar with the data preparation phase and the data analysis phase. But before we go, I want to leave you with some concepts to consider on this topic. There are many concepts in qualitative analysis methods. I'd recommend checking out some online videos or picking up a qualitative analysis book if you have more interest. Some concepts you should know that we may not have covered are member checking, which is a method of evaluating qualitative research by sharing the results with participants and getting feedback directly from them. Narrative analysis, which analyzes the structure, meaning, and other characteristics of narrative within literary texts. And conversation analysis, which analyzes the structure, sequencing, word choice, and other characteristics of conversations. That is all I have. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Charlie Collins, and I will see you next time.